So thanks again for joining. It's really great to see people coming in now. I'm Robin. I'm the Digital Marketing Manager at Learning People. Today we're going to talk about the UK Cybersecurity Council. So what you'll leave with today is a clear understanding of what the UK Cybersecurity Council is, and why it's so important for anyone pursuing a career in this sector in cybersecurity to know about it. So more specifically, you'll get an understanding of how earning an associate cybersecurity professional title with the UKCSC can benefit your job search, help you stand out in the job market in the cyberspace, and how the council's cyber access network can help you to further enrich your career as well. We always try and frame these webinars around actionable advice, like I said earlier, and industry insight which you can take away and use in your own career journey. So anyone serious about progressing their career in cyber, you're in the right place today. So yeah, we can get started and introduce you to our speakers. So we're joined today by someone in the council, so David Battersby, who's the Senior Programme Officer at the UKCSC. He's been there, I want to say, about 3 years or over 3 years. Is that right, David?
Nearly 4 now, yeah.
Okay, coming up to your 4-year anniversary, and has been involved in various data and programme roles over those years that he's been there. You now also lead on the Cyber Access Network initiative, which I mentioned a minute ago, provides resources and networking opportunities to those who are looking to start or enrich their career in cyber. I did have a little snoop at his profile while I'm writing this intro. I noticed he also does plenty of extracurricular things. He's a good soul. He volunteers as a teaching assistant most Saturday mornings, which is a lovely thing to do. I'll hand over to you then, David, just for a quick intro about yourself.
Thank you. I think you said most of it. It's nice to be hyped up slightly. Yeah. Senior Programme Officer at the UK Cybersecurity Council. Started that in a sort of data management role. So I started by implementing our CRM system and have just sort of carried on in different roles since, and now run our early career stuff generally. So I look after our associate cybersecurity professional registration process as well as cyber access network, that I'm sure we'll get onto quite quickly.
Okay. Great, thank you very much. And could you we'll dive into this a little bit more later, but can you give a very top line intro for those who might not be aware? I think a lot in this webinar will have heard of the UK Cybersecurity Council, but just a sort of quick overview of what they do, the work they do.
Yeah, absolutely. I think quite a lot of people have heard of us but aren't quite sure what we do. We're a logo that appears in a lot of places. So the short answer is we're the recognised self-regulatory body for the cybersecurity profession in the UK. That's quite a long-winded way of saying we have what's called a royal charter, which is a way that central government, historically the king, now a sort of little special group of central government, recognises organisations for a lot of different things, but in our context as being the representative body for a profession. Our mission is to contribute to making the UK the safest place to live and work online, and the way we do that is by professionalising cybersecurity. If you ask people who work in HRM what a profession is versus a job, you'll get about 10 different answers if you ask 10 different people. But broadly, professions are different to jobs in that they have sort of agreed upon rules in a community. They operate as communities of practice, and they hold each other to account and to certain ethical rules. So classic examples of professions include lawyers, doctors, engineers, teachers to some extent. Classic examples of non-professions include things like delivery drivers, sales professionals, that kind of thing. In 2016, the government identified that cybersecurity had a bit of an issue of not being very professional, so different standards across different organisations, individuals not holding each other to account very well, not a great level of agreement on what people should be doing in cybersecurity roles. So we were created to help build that understanding. The individual things we do to try and build that understanding is we have the Register of Cybersecurity Professionals, so individuals who work in cyber or aspire to do so can register with us and be assessed and certified as appropriate to do certain cybersecurity roles and tasks. We aim to demystify cybersecurity careers, both for the benefit of people going into them and working through them, and for the wider community. So we publish information, including our cybersecurity careers framework, to help people understand the diversity of the profession, what career pathways can look like. We aim to connect cybersecurity professionals, so we build communities of practice, we run events, we encourage professionals to interact with one another, to hold each other to standards, to share information, that kind of thing. And we promote the interests of the profession more broadly. So we act as a voice for cybersecurity professionals to the wider public and to government to make sure those interests are represented as one.
Great, Cool, thank you. That's a lot of good information. I think the way I explain it to people when I'm trying to explain that the value of the UK Cybersecurity Council is that most people know what a chartered accountant is, for example. They know that, and they know how important that is for that professional to be trusted. And it's a similar or the same concept, I guess. Here, it's building a framework which you can demonstrate that you are of a certain level, of a certain competency, have the demonstrable skills to thrive in that industry. Yeah, I hope you agree that that's a good kind of a shortcut way to
Yeah,
explain it.
completely. Much more concise than what I just said. Absolutely.
Yeah, no, that was great. Thank you very, very much. So thank you, David. And over to Mark Wheatland, so our very own Learning People Head of Education, something of a Learning People legend as well. He's been in the business for 14 years. You must be the longest standing member of staff by now, Mark.
Oh, excepting our founder, Pat, I am, yeah.
Yeah. Yes, cool. So yeah, good innings. So as the head of education, Mark's accountable for ensuring we offer world-class curricula to our students across all the sectors we operate in, including cyber. A big part of doing this involves in maintaining partnerships with the biggest tech and project management learning content providers in the world. So think PMI, CompTIA, as well as partnerships with regulatory bodies such as the UK Cybersecurity Council to make sure the learning pathways we can offer our students are mapped to national standards and frameworks. A bit more on that later. He also oversees the team that's responsible for offering a premium learning experience to all of our students, which is our student services team. So they support our students through the learning process, so exam preparation, study planning, making progress with their studies, and then into a career through the career services team, which offers CV optimization, help at networking, building professional profiles. So in this sense, he's probably one of the most important people in the business. Always really glad to have him on these webinars. I'm going to hand over to him to say a little bit more about himself.
I feel I'm not able to live up to that introduction, really. So thank you. I think actually David touched on a key thing, which is if you boil down a lot of what we're doing, it is about demystifying careers in tech from our point of view in the broader tech, but specifically in cybersecurity for today. And I think that's the important contribution we all try to make in terms of whether it's putting together pathways of learning that people can do, whether it's the career consultants who kind of guide people through what the options could be in terms of career, and it's student care people in here who hold people's hands as they work through those learning pathways, and then career services team exemplified by Sophie, who help people in that kind of search to find the career that they're looking for. So yeah, we're all committed to doing that in one way or the other. So hopefully we can help do some more demystifying today.
Great, thank you very much. And as a surprise guest, didn't know she was joining until quite recently, but really glad to have her on, is Sophie Barnes. She's one of our senior career advisors at Learning People. So she works in the team I just mentioned. She works in the career services team, which Mark oversees. We get a lot of questions on these webinars about the step from completing exams or completing studies, moving through studies, and then actually getting into a job at the end of it. And that's what Sophie's team does. They support people in that process. So in between getting the qualifications and actually positioning themselves in the job market and landing that role, that's the part that Sophie's team plays in the process. So yeah, it's always great to have her to answer those questions and give a bit more insight. So Sophie, over to you to introduce yourself.
Thank you for that, Robin. But yeah, echoing kind of what Robin and Mark have said, but so I work in the career services team alongside my two colleagues, Chelsea and Kirsten. And once you pass your first exam, you'll have access to all of our support. But we cover a wide range of kind of industries and roles, but cybersecurity is, an area that's growing. There's lots of people getting into cybersecurity, and actually lots of companies and organizations looking for more and more people within that cybersecurity kind of area. So I guess, once you get to us, a huge part of our role is we talk to people from all sorts of backgrounds, people that have loads of experience or no experience at all. And we'll very much work on things like your CV, your LinkedIn profile, might have certain portfolios that will be interesting to employers. And then once we get all of that ready, we'll very much guide you through all the steps you need to hopefully get some interviews. So things like networking, understanding how to find roles, being confident in speaking to employers. And then hopefully if we do all of that right, then you'll get some interviews. And then by that point, you'll know us really, really well. But we'll do sort of interview preparation. And essentially we're there for that whole part of the journey. And the reason why we do what we do is because ultimately reason why most people enroll with us is because they want to get a job at the end of it. So the reason why we do what we do is because we just love seeing people get in the roles that they want and that they've studied hard towards.
Yeah, thank you, Sophie. And I think the success rate of your team is so impressive, and it's one of the reasons people want to learn with us and have such a good experience with us. So it's really important work that your team does, and like you say, helps them achieve the ultimate goal of getting the job, breaking into the industry, getting their job. Thank you very much. So we'll dive into the content now. What I said at the beginning about this being interactive, I'm going to be launching some polls throughout, because it'd be great to learn a little bit more about who's in the audience and where you're at in your job search. So that is what the first poll is going to be. Let's hope that so you should be able to see the first poll now. Where are you in your cyber career journey? Oh, people have started answering. So if you're right at the start, if you're already studying with a certification in mind, looking for your first role already, or maybe you're already in a role and you're looking to progress. Let's see who's out there. And while you answer that, I'm just going to talk through a few stats about the cybersecurity landscape and what that means for job seekers at the moment in this industry. So very recent figures from the UK government's cybersecurity sectoral analysis 2026, very long, but a very official government document, shows that the UK cybersecurity sector generated 14.7 billion in revenue, which is up 11% year on year over the last 12 months. So big business. The sector employs 69,600 people on a full-time equivalent basis, which is up 3% year on year, with around 2,300 extra roles added. So again, speaking to that growth of the industry. UK businesses experience an estimated 5.19 million cyber crimes of all types across the last 12 months. So this is another thing we speak about a lot in our content, is that cyber crime and cyber attacks are on the up, and the cyber skills gap is probably not being filled quickly enough to defend against them. So an IBM reported a 49% increase in active ransomware groups compared to the year prior. Finally, not to paint too bleak a picture, but the global cybersecurity skills gap is defined as an industry shortfall of approximately 4.8 million professionals. So that's 4.8 million professionals we'd need to make sure our governments, institutions, businesses are safe. And this crisis is driven by the rapid growth in cyber threats. So all of this speaks to a need for more professionals, which for job seekers is obviously a very good thing. There's high demand in the industry. Anyone who has aspirations to get into cyber, there probably is the need for what they want to contribute. So that's a good thing on the job seeker side. However, a new report in 2026 from the SANS Institute revealed that over 60% of organisations cite that they're not just looking for people, they're looking for people with the right skills. So it's about the right skills rather than just filling that head count. So that's their primary concern. And this can have an impact on those truly entry-level, first rung of the ladder kind of jobs, because they do need the right skills. And 25% of cybersecurity job postings did mention at least one specific certification in the job listings. The most common ones are CompTIA Security Plus as being cited even for sort of entry-level jobs. So all of this to say, while there is huge demand in the industry, there is also a need for the right skills. So anyone on this call who's already done their first certification or is working towards it, you're doing absolutely the right thing, and well done. This will give you a real leg up and make you stand out in the job market, even if you're going for those entry-level roles. And a nice stat to finish on, if you don't have a technical background or you don't have much cyber experience so far in your career, in the same report, it was cited that 28% of new cybersecurity recruits are converting from other non-cyber roles. So it's not uncommon. It's actually quite typical. And there's definitely a career path for you into cyber if you don't have a cyber or technical background. So again, good news for the audience on this call, I can imagine. So I'm going to publish the results. I hope people can see them. So 34% of our audience are right at the start of their career. So no cyber experience yet. That's okay, as we've just covered. Almost 50%, so the majority are studying already for a certification and gaining their knowledge. So you've already taken the first step and you've identified what you need to learn and you're doing it, which is great. And 17% are already looking for their first role. which is amazing. If you are a learning people, I would assume you're a learning people student, that's where you should get in touch with Career Services, so one of Sophie's team, and that's the part of the puzzle that they can help you with. There's no one yet in a role looking to progress. So I think a lot of what we'll speak about today will be very relevant to those who are looking to learn or already learning and kind of break into that first role. So thank you very much for all your answers. Right, so we're going to go back over to you, David, to talk a bit more about the council, but more specifically about the Associate Cybersecurity Professional title. So for those who might, like you said, a lot of people know about the council, but might not know about the specifics and the value of the titles that they can gain. So could you speak a little bit more about what it means to be registered with the UK Cybersecurity Council and gain this entry-level title?
Yeah, absolutely. So professional registration is a peer-reviewed, generally, or in some cases aligned, we'll talk about that a bit later, way to demonstrate that you are competent not only in cybersecurity, but more broadly in your professional skills. There are 4 different professional titles. The one we're talking about today is Associate Cybersecurity Professional, which we sort of pitch as being someone who's ready to work in cybersecurity. For some people, it's also a way to demonstrate cybersecurity ability and knowledge as an sort of adjunct to another career. So we have people who are registered with us who are lawyers or marketing professionals, for example, that have built substantial cybersecurity knowledge and experience that they then use in their legal or marketing practice. So it's quite a broad church, but most people are kind of ready to work in cybersecurity or within the first year of a cybersecurity role. It demonstrates both cybersecurity competency. So there are 3 competency areas that are about your ability to do things in cybersecurity, as opposed to specific knowledge, as well as your broader professional skills. So often when we talk to people who hire early career professionals, there does tend to be that gap about trusting that someone has professional skills. So we cover within professional registration, communication skills, leadership and working in teams, ethics and legal compliance, and your commitment to the profession, which is a slightly fancy way of saying your ability to do your own learning, to stay up to date technology and that kind of thing. And it helps to ensure to employers, if you are all pre-career, so I'll talk about employers, helps to assure to employers that you are someone who not only knows their stuff and is able to work in cybersecurity, but is able to work in a professional environment more broadly. Someone that can be put in front of a client and demonstrates, that competency, can represent an organization well, and really importantly in cybersecurity, understands the legal environment in which you're playing. So knows how to behave appropriately, knows not to sort of go off the rails and do things that get an organization in trouble, and can be a trusted professional within that environment.
Yeah, amazing. So actually my second question was about what the benefits are, but I think you've laid that out pretty clearly. So it's that it demonstrates a stamp of approval, I suppose, by a regulatory body that you have the skills to do this job and you have the skills to do it safely and in accordance with compliance. And that, I mean, would certainly give you an edge on the job market within that space.
And we do, not universally, but we do see requirements in job roles for professional registration, particularly in organisations that exist in government supply chain. So if you're familiar with council, government is very heavily pushing what we do. They were, what was then DCMS and now DCIT, created us. There are requirements in a lot of public sector procurement schemes for individuals who do certain work to be registered, and advice going out to organisations, especially in public sector, but increasingly to SMEs as well, that if they're hiring outsourced organisations, the people working in those organisations should be registered to help build that trust. One of the issues that was identified in that 2016 report that we continue to help to address is around employers not quite being able to tell what cybersecurity certifications mean. Loads of them, many of them are really high quality, such as Security Plus. Many of them are less so, and it can be really hard for a person who doesn't work in cybersecurity to understand what they mean. So part of the value of Associate Cybersecurity Professional and other professional titles, if you're later in your career, is this sort of standardise a range of different experiences and different learning pathways into one thing that especially HR professionals and careers professionals just understand what professional registration is in a way they don't necessarily understand what Security Plus is, or what a series of boot camps is, or what learning on the job through 2 years of help desk might have been. Yeah,
okay, thank you. It makes a lot of sense. And am I right in understanding, so this title is the first of, this is testing my knowledge now, 4 or 5?
4.
Okay, 4 titles that progress in seniority and skill level.
Yeah. I can talk about the other 3 if you'd like, although they won't be super relevant.
It would be good to just hear what they are and sort of, I mean, a question I have actually is there a professional timeline that's, I mean, it might be different for different people that you'd expect to reach chartership, right? Which is the ultimate one at the top.
Yeah, so there are 4 professional titles. There's Chartered Cybersecurity Professional, represents somebody who is an expert broadly in cybersecurity as well as in a specific area, and typically has experience of leading interdisciplinary teams. If you're looking at a small organization, sort of up to 50 people, a kind of CISO or a CTO is probably going to be that. In larger organizations, people like heads of certain cybersecurity functions, like a head of penetration testing in a larger organization is likely to be a chartered cybersecurity professional. When you look at procurement schemes, they're also the ones who are expected to be kind of sign-off points or final responsibility points. So chartered is a legally regulated title. It's not just regulated by us, it's regulated by Privy Council, and it connotes that level of personal responsibility in doing certain activities. There's then principal cybersecurity professional, which describes someone who is a sort of narrower expert. So an expert in an area of cybersecurity, such as cybersecurity audit and risk management or security testing. Don't necessarily have that breadth, but they are a recognized expert in their specific field. And in procurement schemes, are typically the person who needs to be doing at a senior level. There's then practitioner cybersecurity professional, which describes someone who is an experienced non-expert. So it's the only one we really feel comfortable attaching a timeline to. People can reach chartered in 2 years, people can reach chartered in 20 years, people can never get there. Principal typically is 2 years into your career. Practitioner typically is 2 years into career. So you've specialized. You are no longer just a sort of junior consultant or a junior professional. You've become someone who can do, for example, security testing or risk assessments semi-independently under guidance. And you've become a specialized individual, as opposed to just being someone who knows a bit about a lot of things in cybersecurity. It's completely normal for your first cybersecurity role to be unspecialized, so associate is not assessed by specialism, but generally within 2 years you'll kind of have a specialism, and that's where practitioner becomes relevant.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. That's I've learned a few details in there as well. Thank you. So I think the question on everyone's minds now probably is, how do you get it? How do you register? How do you get a title? So I'm going to maybe put that question to you again, David, but also to you, Mark, because there is a route through Learning People which can sort of help you fast track through our cyber training pathways, getting a registration and this initial associate title. So I'll go to you first, David. So how do you get this as an aspiring cyber professional because I think it's no exaggeration to say it could be the difference between securing a job or not, having this on your CV. So how do you get there?
So the sort of standard route is qualified by experience. So that means you submit evidence of the 5 competency areas, A being most of it, being the I am good at cyber, B to E being the broader professional skills. That's written evidence. That's then reviewed by a peer assessor, so somebody else who is registered in cybersecurity, works in cybersecurity. They're not kind of paid examiners. They are people who have that experience of being in your field. In most cases, that's a paper-based review. Sometimes, if, for example, you're clearly talking around an NDA, or if they have a few questions, or if you have a reasonable adjustment, you may also then do an interview again, peer-based, someone else who works in cybersecurity. That's the standard route. We also have what are called aligned qualifications. So qualifications that we've assessed, we've worked with the organisations that provide them, queuing mark up a bit here, that cover some or all of the professional registration criteria. If you do Security Plus through Learning People, that covers your full competency statements. So it's a little bit better than just doing Security Plus on its own. Security Plus on its own doesn't cover communication skills very well, whereas Learning People teaches it in a way that means you do get those B competencies as well. And in that situation, the only thing you need to demonstrate, the only thing that we'll test, so if you have a fully aligned route, such as Learning People with Security Plus, the only questions we'll ask that determine whether you can get the award is around unspent criminal convictions. So you will still need to give us a little bit of information, but so far nobody has had a conviction that's excluded them. As long as you're honest, it's unlikely you will. Mark, a bit more about Learning People, Security Plus.
Yeah, and we did some work with Lisa last year to map the skills that are in the Competency Security Plus and the way we teach it against the framework that you mentioned for ACSP. As you say, it's broader than just the content of Security Plus, but we have a pathway which we actually have named ACSP, and that is the content that's in Security Plus some content around communication skills, which, as we all know, are vital, and some other things around diversity, equity, inclusion, which kind of speak to those BCD competencies as well. So basically, put simply, if you do our pathway, then you cover off all the knowledge requirements of the framework, and then it is just, in this case, just as you say, that one other question really that has to be asked. So I'm sure a lot of people are probably on the school already on or working towards that pathway piece, and it's a critical thing, but it is fully mapped against the framework, which is something we're able to offer and other people don't. So good news for learning people students.
Yeah, so that provides them a sort of clearer route through our training to gaining that title and gaining that competitive advantage. You touched on soft skills, sort of communication and soft and human skills there, which I know is really important in the cyber industry. And I actually have a question around that, which I think you might be well placed to answer, Sophie. So like I said, Sophie's working the career services team that helps people enrich their applications and land those jobs. And I'm going to drop, before I ask you, another quick poll in there to get a feel for how confident people in the audience feel about job applications. I know some of you are still studying, but probably, or some are still thinking about studying. So you might not be quite at the point where you're applying yet, but some people are, and I'm sure that's the end goal. So let's get a feeling for how confident you feel. So we've got how confident you feel in searching and applying. So that's your CVs, interviewing, networking, and then how up to date you feel and optimize you for your CV and your LinkedIn profile is. I see people, yeah. Some people are answering already. So, Sophie, this around sort of human and soft skills, clearly not to be forgotten about. Of course, technical skills are really important, but the human side of things also is. Are there any particular soft skills or communication skills you'd shout out for when you're supporting someone into cybersecurity roles?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many different soft skills, and I think one of the first things that we do in career services is kind of try to unpick, for those people that have no experience, unpick what you've done before. I spoke to someone on the phone earlier that wants a career in cybersecurity, and I kept saying to him, "What are you doing now? What are you doing now?" And he said, "Oh, it's not relevant. It's not relevant. I don't need to tell you." And he is working in a customer service role. And that's a perfect example of he feels that isn't relevant, but he's got problem solving, able to communicate effectively. He's got good time management. He's able to analyze data because, there's stock counts and stuff going on. So for me, it's all those very broad soft skills. So communication, problem solving, analytical thinking, time management, put me on the spot now, but anything like that for me there's a lot of data out there to show that they're just as important as your hard skills. So when you're gaining all those hard skills from your certifications, if you can really showcase that whatever you've done, whether you've got loads of experience in tech or no experience in tech, you're going to come with a series of soft skills. And that doesn't just have to be from work experience. That could be when you're sat at home with your family and you're having to communicate with someone something about tech or whatever. So I think, for me, the first thing to do for anyone, at risk of telling you what I would tell you when you get to career services, the first thing I'd be doing is going online, looking at job descriptions and unpicking what the soft skills are that most of those entry level tech roles or SOC analysts, whatever it is you're looking at, and understand what are the common themes. But I can almost guarantee communication, problem solving, time management, analytical thinking, all those really standard soft skills are going to be vital to a career in cyber.
Amazing.
Can I just, sorry,
Yeah,
Robin,
please.
I just add, look, any time, and David, I'm sure is the same, anytime you talk to an employer, anytime you talk to an organization that is trying to recruit into any of the tech spaces, that those human skills, soft skills are the key things. They're really, really important to the success of people in a job. It's great if you understand the tech skills, but if you can't communicate people, if you can't listen actively, if you can't think for yourself, you're not going to be much use to anyone, even if you do know what port numbers or what it does. You still need to have that rounded skill set. And as you say, Sophie, a lot of our students are already bringing that to the game without necessarily thinking about that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And you did touch on this already, but in order to gain the title, it's not just the technical skills from the S+ you have to acquire. It's also modules you have to complete in critical thinking. You have to have those demonstrable skills as well. That's correct, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And Associate Cybersecurity Professional, we actually launched it as a title slightly later than our others. So when we first were incorporated, we had just the experience titles. associates a bit more recent, because we found with employers they were struggling to find ways to verify, as Mark said, that people they're going to, obviously once you've interviewed someone you can kind of verify, but at the screening stage, struggling to understand who had those communication skills and broader professional skills. Cybersecurity has a reputation of being a job that's about writing code and looking for bugs, and that is a part of the job, but a much more substantial time-wise part of that job is listening to people and getting people to tell you what they want the code to do, or telling people which bugs you found and what they need to do to fix it. It has a reputation as being a very technological and very looking at a screen-based profession. In most specialisms, and especially when you're early career and you're maybe the person who gets the jobs that the rest of the team doesn't necessarily want to do, a lot of it is about asking correct questions, telling people why you're doing things rather than just doing them. And you can't overstate how important those skills are, and learning them being really valuable.
Yeah, that's really interesting, and really important not to overlook that side of learning and professional development. Right, the poll results are in. So we've got 12% people feel very confident in applying for a job. I'm quite jealous of that, to be honest. Not that I'm looking for a new job, obviously. I envy that confidence. That's great to hear. The majority say quite confident but would benefit from some guidance. And then we have quite a few in there who are not really sure at this point, or who really struggle with it, which I think a lot of people do. And then also to the CV, we've got 28% of people and 17% respectively who think their CVs and LinkedIn are extremely strong. Again, like kudos. But then the rest, so 72 and 83% respectively, think that their CV or LinkedIn could do with some updating. So again, just a reminder, if you're a student of ours and you've passed an exam, or alumni, you've passed at least one exam with us, the Career Services team will be available to you, and you can, if not already, get in touch with your Career Services contact, and they can support you through that part of your career journey. And yeah, if you're considering learning with learning people, that's a service that will become available after you pass your first exam, which is will be really valuable to giving you that edge in the job market. Great, thanks again for your answers. So moving on to the next section, this is more, so we've talked about the title and how it's mapped to the S+ training that you will do at Learning People, and why that's so important for your professional profile. We're now going to talk, so back to you, David, to talk about the Cyber Access Network, which is one of the newest, but still a year old, I think, initiatives in the Cybersecurity Council, which, as far as I understand, is more about developing outside of the technical skills, or providing additional resources and opportunities to help people develop professionally. So I'll let you explain it properly.
Yeah, absolutely. You've got a really good sketch of it. So Cyber Access Network is our free network for people on their way into cybersecurity. So that includes career changers, students, people on a self-learning journey. It's designed to sort of sit around structured learning to make sure that by the time you're qualified and ready to work in cybersecurity, you have a good idea of what you want to do and what the options are out there. So we do things like mini technical workshops. So we'll introduce you to things ideally you probably haven't heard of in formal learning. So things like how social engineering works, how AI defense works, things that it would be strange if a provider covered in a sort of straightforward cybersecurity course, but that can help spark interest. We also have chats with people working in cybersecurity, talking about their journey in. We find those are especially useful for career changers, because most people who are senior in cybersecurity at this point didn't start their role in cybersecurity. It's pretty rare to meet a CISO or a head of cyber or a head of services who got a cybersecurity degree and then got a cybersecurity graduate scheme role and then worked in cyber. So people tend to have really diverse career pathways, and those sort of reflections on the last 5, 10, 15 years of their work can be really useful for helping you understand the ways that those skills do transfer, especially as we move towards sort of portfolio careers and people sort of bouncing around a bit more. It also aims to connect you with things that are relevant to organizations, especially, and volunteering opportunities and roles that are relevant to your aspirations. So we try and signpost out to the really impressive cybersecurity ecosystem that exists. One of the things I really love about cyber, and I think a benefit of it being a very new profession, is that there is just so much enthusiasm and energy in organizations to help. So we try and help people find the ones that will support them as well, whether that's a local cybersecurity cluster that's very place-based and does things around you, whether that's an affinity network like Women in Cyber, Neurocyber, or whether that's something for the sector you want to work in, like sort of working groups in cybersecurity and defense and public sector. So that by the time you have your qualification, could be Security Plus, could be anything else, you know the options that are available to you. You have an idea of how cybersecurity works in the real world, and you're connected with those support networks, both CAN and more broadly, that can help you meet the right people. That's sort of the goal in terms of activities. What that means practically is we run really regular webinars. We publish guidance and blogs. We have a bi-weekly newsletter, so every 2 weeks we'll bother your inbox, and we do in-person meetups. Typically, those sort of networking sessions at broader conferences. We've done a few that are dedicated, so just can. We find it's a more interesting conversation if you're coming to see us for half an hour at InfoSec, for example, in that kind of environment.
Amazing, yeah. Yeah, a broad range of ways you can support people there. And I'm right in thinking they don't have to be registered to access.
Cyber access networking is join online. We do ask you some questions. So we want to know what you're trying to get out of it, where you are in your journey, and we use those to inform the future of our work. We will say no if you don't answer the questions. There is a quid pro quo there. But yeah, that's a completely free network with the goal of connecting you to the profession so that you're established and ready to go.
Great. Do you have any, this is putting you on the spot because I didn't ask you to think about this in advance, but are there any particularly successful or exciting events that are either coming up or that you've had that you want to shout out?
That's a good one. So ones we've had, we did some really fun launch events that were very sort of regionally based when we launched Cyber Access Network. So rather than doing a sort of let's go to London and invite people there, we did one in east of England. We did one up in Gateshead. Those are fantastic to see because we managed to connect people who were not particularly engaged in cybersecurity. So we connect sort of A-level students in cybersecurity who hadn't really looked at the ecosystem more broadly with sort of what employment looked like in their local areas. And that was really interesting because it was very place-based. So there was a real difference in what cybersecurity as a field looks like locally in the east of England, very sort of professional services based, security testing, things you do for other companies, versus in sort of Gateshead and Northwest England looks a lot more like in-house operation technology support for companies. So that was really interesting for me and also for the students who hadn't been particularly engaged so far. Like they weren't self-selected people who were in CAN and went along. They're people who were dragged along kicking and screaming by their teachers. And that was really interesting to see. In terms of stuff coming up, we tend to have a bit of a fallow period during summer. People don't tend to engage as much and are having fun, especially that student audience. But we are coming back in September with a program of webinars that will cover more technical areas. So kind of masterclasses in things like defensive AI, security testing, helping you understand just a little bit of what that looks like with the expectation that from that you'll take away some projects you can learn if that's an area you're interested in. Or equally, if you go, that looks horrible, you've ruled out an area of cybersecurity and you don't devote your time and resources to pursuing it further. I'd also shout out some events we tend to attend that we don't run, which are called the Cybersecurity Expos. Those happen all over the country 4 times a year. They're cybersecurity careers fairs. If you are completely new to the workforce, so if you're sort of 18, this is your first qualification, they're probably not for you. But if you've had a previous career and you want to talk to employers that really care about that previous career experience, they're a really great place to go to get that conversation, especially ex-public sector, ex-military, ex-defensive, also sensitive areas of the workforce. But generally, career changers who can bring those professional skills will have a really good time at those. We also attend those personally, so different council members, staff will go to those and help you navigate resources, give some CV advice, that kind of thing. So if you are in the area of one of those, I think it's Manchester, London, and Cheltenham, I think are the ones coming up this year, would really recommend dropping in.
Amazing. Very good. That's an amazing spontaneous answer as well. Thank you so much. So how would someone get involved with this if they're interested? Like I've seen on your website, you can access a lot of information about CAN and about the webinars, and you can see the blogs and things. Is that the best route for people to see events and sign up and things like that?
Yeah, absolutely. We recently redone the website. It should be a lot clearer to use now. So if you used it more than 6 months ago, give it another shot. I promise it's better. You can sign up to CAN on the website, and again, there's that bi-weekly newsletter that'll tell you everything we're doing, everything we're up to, places to see us, webinars we're doing, and also signposts to external opportunities. So when we see genuinely entry-level job roles, for example, we do share those there. I don't think I mentioned that earlier. So yeah, best thing to do, join the mailing list. So
the last point on this before we move on, I believe that there are opportunities for people to volunteer for these events or volunteer for some of the things that are run by CAN, and that these opportunities could be quite good for the CV of someone who's trying to enrich their applications or their cyber professional profile. Is that right, David?
Yeah, so we have a couple of main volunteering streams. So we have the expert volunteer panel. So that's our sort of floating panel of volunteers who contribute their expertise to different projects we do. If you are a career changer, you may well have expertise from a previous career. We also look for expertise sort of expert by experience. So people who have lived experiences that can contribute to our work are really important. We particularly care at the moment about hearing from career changers or people who have had difficult journeys into cybersecurity. You can apply to join the expert volunteer panel also on the website, or you can shoot me an email and I'll send you the sign up form. We do also do kind of peer volunteering in Cyber Access Network from time to time. So if you're on the Cyber Access Network mailing list, you'll occasionally get a thing that goes kind of tell us about, for example, a piece of media that represents cybersecurity really well, where we encourage sort of information sharing that way. We sort of put through a little bit of sense checking, and then it's a good way to get your name on a published article. If you are someone who is already working in cybersecurity, or you're someone who's already registered in cybersecurity, which I know none of you said you were, think of it for the future. Once you're working in cybersecurity, we also really love volunteer assessors. It's a good way to build those communication skills and keep in touch with what other professionals are doing. If none of that sounds right for you, there are other ways to volunteer that aren't with us, but are with organizations we'd really recommend. Some that I'll just shout out. Local cybersecurity clusters are pretty much always really looking for cybersecurity professionals, for people to volunteer with them. Sometimes for cybersecurity professionals, sometimes for more general volunteering. That's a really good way to network with people who work in your community specifically, usually with experienced professionals. Cyber Helpline can be another good place to volunteer, especially if you are someone who has maybe a customer service background or has experience with dealing with the public. They are a fantastic nonprofit that help victims of online harm, and they have sort of alumni who volunteered with them while they've been studying, who've gone on to do really fantastic things in cybersecurity more broadly. I'd also shout out a sort of series of unrelated organizations called the Cybersecurity B-Sides. Those are community-run conferences that happen all over the country. They are always looking for volunteers, usually for more event staff kind of stuff, so giving out lanyards, signing people up. But they're, again, a great way to network and a really good way to get free access to fantastic high-quality community-run conferences. Cybersecurity as a profession is pretty much always has something going on for volunteering, which is a good way to get involved or dip your toe in.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, it does sound like there's a lot of opportunities there. Great, thank you. So we're coming to the last section of the webinar. You couldn't have a webinar these days without mentioning AI, so we're going to do exactly that. I'm going to launch a poll before we go into it to just get a feel for people's confidence levels with using AI, I suppose professionally in this sense. So I will launch that now. So what level would you consider your AI skill? Complete novice, some experience, lots, you feel you know what you're doing. Oh, someone's gone straight in with lots, or expert level. I'll also just direct people to the Q&A box. You should be able to see a couple of questions that Mark's been busy in the background answering. You never know, they might be applicable to you. There might be interesting information in there. So yeah, if you've not seen that, take a little look. And then we'll dive straight into the last section. So, and there's probably something to ask every member of our panel tonight about regarding AI and how people are talking about it, how people feel about it. So to start sort of on the top line of the industry, David, I think I'm going to come to you first. Sorry, you've just done a whole section of talking. How would you say AI is reshaping the world of cyber, both on both sides, on the side of attackers and defenders?
Yeah, so essentially it enhances everyone's capability to do things. So for attackers, that means things that are conventionally quite difficult if you use humans become very, very easy. There are unique cases of sort of very technical exploits that are done with AI. I don't want to undermine those, but most of the way that AI seems to be effectively used by attackers is around the human side of things. So generative AI, LLMs, are really, really good at writing sort of plausible seeming copy, plausible seeming emails. It's massively enhanced the ability of attackers to send out phishing emails, to do spear phishing emails, to write things that are targeted to get specific people to click on them. On the defensive side, equally, it's a magnifier. So it's for things like writing training, writing sort of preventative guidance. It's improved. It allows people who maybe have questions about cybersecurity to ask and get personalized advice when we talk about LLMs. That's good, but it is less. LLMs generally sort of less good for defenders and attackers, unfortunately. Non-LLM, so non-generative AI, is fantastic for defenders. So AI, lots of forms of it. Broadly, what it does is infer from large amounts of data what's likely to happen next or what's likely to happen in a scenario in a similar way to the human brain does. So for sort of defensive cybersecurity, screening loads and loads of alerts and seeing which ones are suspicious It's very good at that, especially in things like inbox security and SOCs. That's great for cybersecurity. It's great for the security of the nation and organizations. It does have an impact on early career cybersecurity roles. A lot of the things that historically have been easy entries into cybersecurity are, especially in SOCs and in sort of first line support, can be done by AI. So the way that people get into cybersecurity is changing. That doesn't mean all the roles are gone. It just means some of the conventional first steps into cyber have been disrupted. But equally, as we mentioned, cybersecurity is a massively growing industry, and so is AI. Other roles are being created around sort of harnessing AI defensively and defending from the way that attackers have harnessed AI offensively. It just means there's sort of slightly fewer clear and obvious first steps like SOC has been historically.
Yeah, thank you. So it seems that it's a prevalent theme at the moment in cyber, and that's probably not going away, probably not going to change. And I can imagine, Sophie, you get a lot of people who are maybe concerned about AI, or at least have questions about AI and how to position their skills or knowledge around this for the cyber job market. Are these questions that come up a lot when you're speaking to people you're helping into cyber careers?
Yeah. I mean, it comes up a lot for anyone going into any sort of career, but particularly into kind of that cyber route. Echoing what David said, it's very much now AI can help the efficiency of a role. So employers want that. But lots of people see it as a barrier. We talk about it a lot when you're going through that career change. Is the key, and I guess if I talk about it from an employment point of view, there's two aspects to AI really when you're applying for roles. You're seeing it come up more and more in job descriptions. So when you're looking at job descriptions at any level, even at entry level, often you will see now that they expect people to have a really basic understanding of AI. And usually that's as basic as sort of prompt engineering, which is what you just put in to things, or any AI system that you use, and it generates you an output. So you'll see more and more that AI is coming up in job descriptions. And actually, something that we talk about a lot as you move forward with career services is how can you show that employer that you understand AI through your application. So there's certain things you can do in your application. Lots of people think, oh no, I don't want to use AI to help me. I don't want to use AI to help me with my interview prep or to help me understand what they're asking more. But actually, if you can showcase that in an effective way when you're applying for roles or when you're out and about networking and talking to people, you're already showing that employer that actually, if you can use it in that area, why wouldn't you be able to use it in a role and make it more efficient? So I think there is a lot of, lots of people see it as a barrier. And I think we're all still learning. I use AI all the time for various parts of my role, and I know lots of people use it in different roles. I think we're all still using, but if you're not getting on top of AI and getting on board with AI, you're just putting yourself on the back foot. So don't see it as a barrier. Echoing what David said, it's going to be there. It's going to be used in various different job roles, but actually from an application point of view as well, there's certainly lots of things that we can do with you that's going to hopefully help you overcome that kind of barrier with it, if you like, and only help you succeed. But yeah, I think if you're not using it, you don't want to become reliant on it, but you want to use it in a way that's going to essentially make you far more effective in your role.
Yeah, great. Thank you. I'm not surprised to hear that there are lots of questions about it, like you say, probably across the board, but for cyber particularly feels very relevant. So we have the poll answers. The majority would say they have some experience, some or a lot, not quite expert level. Some would say novice. I think not being at expert level isn't a problem, because I would say that in terms of furthering your cyber career, you don't necessarily, I hope someone will correct me if I'm wrong, have to be an AI genius or a really advanced AI specialist, but you need to know the skills that allow you to do your job within the cyber sector really effectively and operate the tools and learn processes, which I segues into my question to you, Mark, asking about or having you talk a little bit about how we integrate AI training into our cyber learning pathways. And I hope what I said somewhat aligns with what you want to say.
I've got there's probably three things to say really, and we are running out of time because we've got a very hard stop, haven't we, at 6 o'clock?
Yes.
But we're working hard to increase the interweaving of AI into our career pathways, because we know that employers are looking for AI fluency or literacy when they are looking at employees, because everyone is expected to all of a sudden magically to have the ability to use AI in their job, even though they probably haven't had any training for it. And lots of people, including me, are stumbling around in the dark a little bit with it. So it's a vital skill to develop. And it's certainly something that we're working on right this moment, as you know, to weave even further into the pathways that we have. Two things on how it's affecting cybersecurity. I think one, we know that at both ends it's affecting it. There's more attacks. There's more activity by bad actors using AI because you can scale up quickly the amount of attacks you do and the methods of doing it. We know deep fakes and phishing and all those sorts of things have been accelerated massively by the use of AI. Equally, you know that defenders are using AI as well to kind of help boost their systems. And this is one of those things which, if I can get really nerdy for 2 seconds, there's a thing called Jevons paradox. It's an economic principle that came about in the Victorian times. When they first invented steam engines, they started making them better and better, and they thought that as they got more and more efficient, they would have to use less coal. We wouldn't need as much coal because the engines were more efficient. What they actually found was that didn't happen. The use of coal actually went up massively because just because once the engines became more efficient, people just thought, well, we'll use them more. Similarly, when computers came along, everyone was talking about having a paperless office, and the production of paper in the world went up 3 times because everyone started printing everything left, right, and centre in offices. Similar thing with AI to an extent. It's enabling a lot more activity, both in coding and cybersecurity and for malicious actors and for defenders. It enables more activity. It speeds things up. It's a aid, but it's not an alternative to. Quite often, entry-level roles have been affected, but they've been affected by lots of things. They've been affected by economic uncertainty. They're going to be affected by labour shortages. There's fewer and fewer people coming through overall, if you look at the big picture in terms of demographics. So there's lots going on at the moment in terms of that. But people who can bring some AI skills alongside some technical skills and some human skills are going to be the people that succeed going forward.
Amazing. The trifecta. What a note to end on. Thank you very much. That's it. That's all we've got time for today. Thank you so much for everyone who's joined and to all the panelists and speakers today. So just to round things off, like David mentioned, there are plenty of resources and more information about the UK Cybersecurity Council on their website and the events that are coming up. So I would suggest you take a look at that. We also at Learning People, we have a really lively student and alumni group, a network that's great for, I mean, you can get early access to some of our content and events, but it's also good for peer-to-peer advice. You can learn from other students and start networking. If you want an easy way into networking, there should be a link in the chat that takes you there. So if you've already, if you're a current student or alumni, you can join that. We also have lots of guides and websites on our blog across all sectors we operate in, but plenty about cyber in there, career guides, blog posts, things that should be interesting to anyone on this webinar. Again, if you have passed an exam with us, if you're a student who's passed an exam or more, then you'll be able to access our career services team. Maybe you're in touch with them already. If not, I would highly recommend you reach out to them and start that part of your career journey. They will be a huge help. And yes, if you're not a student with us yet, I would recommend you book a career consultation. It will be completely free. One of our career experts operating the cyberspace will be able to talk you through what certifications would best help you achieve your career goals. And then you can that's the start of it all. You can take it from there. Again, you should be able to find some links in the chat, but jump on them quickly because that's everything. So thank you very much again to everyone. And yeah, I hope you have a lovely evening and enjoy the sunshine.